virtual conference. I'm super excited to be joining you guys. I'm right now in Leuven, Belgium, which is the global headquarters of AB InBev. You might not have heard of our company name, but certainly you've heard of the brands that we're able to bring to consumers all around the world. Amber, I have a couple of intro kind of discussions. If you're ready to go, tell me what I want to do.
Why don't we watch a quick video about AB InBev first of all, and then we'll get into the discussion.
That sounds great.
Sharing a beer has brought people together for centuries. This simple act is as meaningful today as it was over 600 years ago when we first started brewing. From the very beginning, our company was built on making connections, bringing people together to make a difference. For us, that starts with brewing great beer. True masters of the craft, our brewers work closely with farmers to combine top-quality barley, the choicest hops, and our taste signature yeasts to delight beer drinkers. Every bottle is one we are proud to serve. With more than 400 brands made in over 50 countries, we brew many of the world's most loved beers and have a beer to suit every occasion. We continue to lead the way, pushing the boundaries with new tastes and experiences to provide more people with more choices in more places. But our commitment doesn't end there. We are using our resources and energy to make a positive impact on the world. We support the livelihoods of thousands of farmers and retailers. We set the bar in water efficiency and are helping improve access to clean water and reduce our impact on the environment in our communities and beyond. And we are working hard to ensure every experience with our beer is a positive one, bringing people together through our brands, our people, and our communities, today and for generations to come. We are AB InBev.
Excellent intro. Let me just remind everyone that in addition to having Alex with us for the hour, we also have the AB InBev Europe recruiters in the virtual stand. They've been there throughout the week as well, eager to meet you. And in the meantime, let's talk to Alex, who's been with AB InBev Europe for 10 years. Tell us more.
All right. So again, good morning, good afternoon to all those joining us from around the world. I wanted to first start with a little bit of an introduction about me, and I think that it's also a good kind of benchmark in terms of what you can expect working for the world's largest brewer. So my name is Alex Pouille. I was born and raised in the US in Florida, but decided to start my career over in Europe. After having gotten a master's of tax accounting, I'll be honest with you, I don't use any of those skills anymore, but they were good at the time. And I joined through what we call the Global Management Trainee Program at ABI. This is a program that gave me a year's worth of induction in our business, from sales to supply, from all of the back office operations that we have, really understanding the full business end to end, helping to build a great network and understand how we actually do business. From there, I was actually able to join the finance team and worked through many different roles in different geographies, learning, let's say, the basics of what we call financial planning and analysis, and really becoming the right hand of our commercial leaders across Europe. I was mostly focused on the markets of France, Italy, Spain, and the Canary Islands. Then, in a typical AB InBev fashion, I was asked to do a complete change of career from not only being a finance, let's say, director, but actually being asked to lead our Spanish operations. So there I found myself. I was 28 at the time, managing 90 people, selling Corona and other our beers in the full country of Spain, responsible for the supply, the marketing, the financials, of course, but also the commercial strategy. Then I was able to go to even bigger clients, working with Asda and Sainsbury's. These are two very large supermarket chains as a commercial director in our UK function. And then just before COVID, I was asked to come back to finance at the European level to be able to manage our financial planning and analysis group. Little did I know that 2020 was going to be an interesting year with COVID and all the impacts have on a fast-moving consumer goods or FMCG company like ABI. But boy, was it the exciting place to be during COVID. And that's where I find myself today. Essentially, at the end of last year, I was asked to take over the full finance team. So now I am the VP of Finance, or let's call it the CFO of Europe for AB InBev, with operations, and I'll explain that a little bit, how we're split up as a company and how we're split up in Europe as well. So the first thing we need to understand is, who is AB InBev? Well, the video explained it quite well, but the most important thing that you need to know is that we're a company that goes back nearly 600 years with a brewing heritage, with wonderful brands on a local product that is beer. And this is a company that is originally founded in Leuven, Belgium, but has operations in 16 countries in Europe and many more international. We'll get that in just a second. But we're really based in Europe because it's the home of beer. It's where this product, after it was able to come out of Mesopotamia, let's say, really found itself anchored in culture and connections that were built over sharing of beer. Now, globally, and getting to know who we are and where we are, we have operations all the way around the world. And Europe is actually quite vast geographically. We have operations from the Canary Islands, which are off the coast of Africa, all the way to eastern Siberia. Meanwhile, the rest of our operations would be the United States, very large business there, Brazil, and also Middle Americas with Mexico, and an emerging footprint in Africa and also Asia Pacific. It's a world-spanning operation, and this is really unique for companies to be able to share experiences throughout different time zones and different cultures. When COVID first started in 2020, in about February or March, we were sharing information from our operations in Wuhan, where we actually have a very large market share in China, wondering what the government was doing, how it was being implemented. We were able to move quickly in an agile way to protect our people, our business, and ultimately to understand how to recover coming out of COVID as well. This world-spanning organization also is represented by many different brands. We'll get to that in just a second, but that's probably one of the nice working for a fast-moving consumer goods company, is seeing people enjoying the product. You know, you actually put in place the marketing that you see outdoor in the billboard. You see it at the bus stop. Then you see somebody actually buying your product in a supermarket trolley. You see basically everywhere. And that is much different, and you can actually enjoy that with friends than maybe technology or other areas that you might be interested in joining in the future. This is really an interesting product that has a physical component to it that is scalable worldwide. And we sell a lot of beer, billions upon billions of glasses of beer every year. Now, just zooming in a little bit into where we are in Europe, I explained that I'm sitting in Belgium, but we have operations around Europe. You can see here kind of our business unit structures that we have. Operations in terms of size and stature and importance, we're going to start first with Benelux, Belgium, Netherlands, France, Luxembourg, followed closely by BU Central, which is where we have our Germany, our Italian operations, and a lot of that orange kind of expansion markets where we're trying to access the market in new and exciting ways, followed finally by the UK and Spain and the Canary Islands, a little bit of Ireland there as well. We also have a great joint venture with our partners Anadolu Efes, which are a Turkish company, in Russia and in Ukraine. So this means that within Europe, we have a lot of diverse markets, markets that have a lot of purchasing power, markets that have less purchasing power, markets that like high ABV or alcohol by volume, and markets that have lower. There is not really one market that is identical, which makes our job very interesting and allows you to transition throughout different geographies in your career, learning new things on a continual basis, even if you're working in the same sector and in the same company. I will just say that we need to talk about our beers as well. What are our brands? What are we responsible for? Where are we coming from? Well, the three most recognizable brands that you should know are Budweiser, the king of beers, Corona, and Stella Artois. But we also have more than 400 other local jewels, we call them. These are billion-dollar brands that are being sold in countries like Belgium and also Germany, and here on the right-hand side, the Netherlands, brands that you might not necessarily know from outside, but if you live in those markets, you absolutely are aware of those brands. And we have many, many more up-and-coming brands as well. One of the great things about working in a fast-moving consumer goods company is the need to reinvent yourself going forward, really reinventing yourself, which means, you know, about 10 years ago, it was all about craft. Now we see everything about seltzers coming in or specialty beers. So it's really exciting to be in a sector that is continuously evolving and changing and being disrupted. It's best to disrupt yourself rather than being disrupted by somebody else. So that's a little bit about our brands, a little bit about where we operate. But I just want to make sure you understand a little bit about our culture as well in terms of the company. And then we're going to connect that a little bit to the diversity and inclusion, let's say, mission that we've been adopting over the last a couple of years, starting to project the world's largest brewer, prioritizing not only sustainability, but also diversity and inclusion to make sure that we expand and multiply our efforts. This is a picture of our new CEO, Michel Ducaris, just started in June of this year after Carlos Brito, who was with us for nearly 15 years in the function of a CEO. And Michel is really bringing on this message of our culture about finding people in the marketplace, finding people in the talent around us, of people that are better than ourselves, that really can become the future leaders. And programs like the Global Management Trainee Program that I went through, but also our programs linked to MBAs, programs linked to our fast track leadership programs and our commercial and supply management trainee programs are all about trying to find people that are, curious, interesting, that can bring fresh perspectives to our company. And really, we are looking for people that can be better than ourselves. They will decide the future of our company. We're not a hierarchical organization at all. I'm 32 and I'm the CFO of Europe. So you can imagine the type of exchanges and communications that we have all around our organization, really looking for new ways of doing things. And so our purpose of bringing people together for a better world is really resonating through everything that we do, but it's really built on a foundation of the culture that we have. AB InBev did not exist basically as a company 20 years ago. Actually, when I joined ABI, I must be honest with you, I didn't really know what the acronym ABI or AB InBev even meant. It was back in 2010. But AB InBev was built on an amazing dream, a dream to bring a bunch of people together, to scale an operation around the globe, and to build a profitable growth company altogether. Now, you could have dreamed small. You could have dreamed, to be the largest in one country or to have the best marketing campaign. But this dream is what led to 15 years of consolidation in the beer market that allowed us to become the largest brewer and the most profitable brewer, and the one that is now making the biggest impact on sustainability, on corporate social responsibility, and also, of course, on the diversity and inclusion element. The other element, we just picked upon this before, is on people. You will hear dream people culture a lot in our company, but people is really the next foundation, hiring people that are better than ourselves and making sure that we grow people at the pace of their talent. Guys, I've had 7 jobs in the 10 years that I've been with AB InBev. And every time you get thrown into a brand new situation and you really have to be a fast and quick learner and love being challenged by being taken out of your comfort zone. The good news is the more that you pour in, the more that you receive back from the company as well. It is incredible the size and scope of my responsibilities today, given how much time I've been in a normal company. But in ABI, it's quite normal because we really believe to stretch people to their upper limit and to really make sure that they also grow at the pace of their talent. And then culture, it's always dream people culture. There's a bunch of here, 4 through 10. We have 10 principles. These are the 10 principles, the 10 commandments, let's call them. We've already gone through 1, 2, and 3. And then 4 through 10 is how we work, and how we look and how we operate when no one's looking, right? What would be happy to know would be published in a newspaper as well. It's cultures of ownership, meritocracy, really not being satisfied with just good enough, okay? But being quick and decisive, managing our costs tightly. That's my responsibility in finance as well. But all of our responsibilities, but I'm, really making sure that we're actually able to implement this. And number 10, never taking shortcuts, making sure that we're doing business in the right and the responsible way. And that is what links me to a couple of topics I wanted to discuss with you just in general about ABI. The first is on sustainability, and the other one, diversity and inclusion. Sustainability is all about not taking shortcuts, but it's also about taking a company that's bigger than most countries and getting it on a path, on a journey of really projecting sustainability as vital and connected to the base business that we work in. Sustainability is not just, some thing that we write on the wall. It is our business. When we talk about smart agriculture, to make sure that we have 100% of our farmers being skilled and connected and financially empowered, it really means also to make sure that everyone is getting a maximum yield out of their available space, that they're being accompanied on the journey, that they have financial security, that they know that someone's going to buy their product at the end of the season. It's about building upon, the best algorithms that we can bring to agriculture to not only make sense for our business, which is to have a good sustainable source of barley, which is one of our main products, our main raw materials, but also to make sure that the people that grow those fields are also financially empowered and are sustainable as well. In terms of water, you heard in the video that we are already the industry leading in terms of our water efficiency. But we also need to make communities that we live in have access to water as well. And that means that 100% of our communities in a high stress water area will have better availability and quality. Then everything that we put into the market, we need to make sure that everything is recyclable or made of 100% recycled content and returnable if possible. We really believe that a great way for us to make sure that we reduce our carbon footprint as a company is making sure that we create a circular nature of our business and a full use of all of our raw materials, even after we have, let's say, leftovers in our processes. For example, we set up a full company that is now selling some of our byproducts to companies like Post and other, food manufacturers that are able to use the proteins that come out of our out of our production processes into protein-rich fibers that can be then used in other food products. And the last part is that we're going to have 100% of our electricity from renewable sources, and that we're going to reduce our emissions by at least 25% across our full value chain. And important here, the value chain, not only within our company, but fully working with our vendors and our suppliers to make sure that we reduce. These are our 2025 sustainability goals. We take our goals very seriously. We're also working on the next set of how we can really accelerate and empower ourselves going forward. But when ABI makes a commitment, we stick to it. We don't take shortcuts, and we also deliver. That's one thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about. And one that we're becoming more and more conscious to us as well is diversity and inclusion. We have over 120,000 employees worldwide, but we interact with over 8 million consumer and customer connections on a daily basis. That means that we really can project and help to make diversity and inclusion a real thorough part of our organization and also the communities in which we serve. Now, we created this statement about diversity and inclusion that's really linked to the principles of our company. I'm not going to read it. You can look at it on our website. It's available. But what's really important about diversity and inclusion at ABI is that it's part of our culture. We have an unwavering commitment to meritocracy. We really believe that that person that is best, that is given this, resources to be able to succeed, should have a great career within our company. And that means we're going to work on talent attraction, but also on accompanying during the journey to make sure that meritocracy is, above all, the reason why and the way how you have a great career within ABI. Let's not get distracted. Let's not get, concerned that potentially diversity and inclusion can be used as a vehicle to achieve other means. Quite the opposite. For us, D&I is part of our DNA. So what are we working on in Europe, and what are we doing with our business strategy? I've been lucky to be involved on what we call the Diversity and Inclusion Council at the European level as one of the main champions and sponsors. We have 4 main areas in terms of, how we're working with diversity and inclusion. We have people in workplace, which is all about our company, the way that we operate, the policies and practices that we have. We have an element completely dedicated to our value chain. How do we make sure that our suppliers are diverse, that they actually live up to the same standards that we are now putting ourselves to? Then in terms of the marketplace, how are our brands represented? How do we make sure that we project an image of society that is accurate and really linked to the community in which we serve? And finally, on communities, how can we make an impact in the communities that we're in? How can we make sure that we have community partnerships and that we increase the transparency of all of our data within our company to make sure that people can connect with us on diversity and inclusion principles? And then just to kind of come up to what we're actually doing, we are reviewing all of our workplaces to make sure that they are presented in the most diverse and inclusive ways. And that's easy in an office. But guys, we run breweries, and we need to make sure that everyone is able and comfortable to come to the workplace on a daily basis. We visit over 30,000 sales establishments in Europe alone. We need to make sure that those workplaces, even though they're not within our own 4 walls, are as inclusive as well, that our customers understand. On the value chain, it's about really making sure that we understand a little bit more and using benchmarking and making sure that we understand how we can help people on this journey. And then marketplace. How do we make sure that our brand imaging, that we can make sure that we have an inclusive marketing framework that us and other industry drivers can actually use together, so that not only ABI is a beer company, but Heineken and Carlsberg and other companies that are advertising are always doing it in an inclusive and diverse way. And on a community basis, it's also about bringing the right people to the table. Just recently here in Belgium, we signed a new charter about inclusive panels, which means that whenever I will be on a panel with anybody else, I will always ask, let's make sure that's a diverse panel. Let's make sure that we're bringing people from different backgrounds, different generations, different ethnicities, whatever type of diversity that we want to define at this stage, that we make sure that we're really making sure that as when we go onto these panels, we're asking people to also make the effort to look outside of their normal, let's say, Rolodex or contact list to see who really can help drive to have a more complete, cohesive, and interesting discussion as well. So just as kind of a conclusion, and then going back to Amber to be able to field some questions, ABI, global company, super exciting workplace, crazy careers in terms of speed, acceleration, but also the amount of challenges that you can get on a day-to-day basis. But we're a company that uses our size and strength as global brewer to also work on sustainability efforts and also working on diversity and inclusion initiatives to make sure that we leave the world a better place than where we found it. It goes back to our dream. We really want to bring people together for a better world, and we're really making sure that people can connect with us in a responsible way and know that as a company, we're also a responsible actor in the communities in which we serve.
Amazing.
So Amber, that's kind of
Alex.
my initial intro, at least, and more than happy to have a discussion with you also on some business topics like commodities and other things that are going on.
Fantastic. Absolutely love your energy and how you explained the culture so passionately at AB InBev. And yes to the inclusive panels. I love that you put that in your message. So important. We already have a question from the audience, and I just want to remind you all to share those questions here in the chat, and I will be fielding those throughout the hour. A question from Victor. How did ABI navigate around the COVID challenge in terms of sales numbers and staff safety and efficiency?
You know, that's a great question. And as I was mentioning before, of course, we had the benefit of having a global organization. And it was almost, in a way, predictable in terms of the different stages of the COVID, let's say, crisis and recovery. But being in the shoes, being there, it still was new. It still was fresh. It was still very much, let's say, what we saw was that basically consumers that were no longer able to consume beer and other beverages that sell in bars, restaurants, hotels, and cafes switched their consumption over into the supermarkets, and they changed their behavior. They started buying different beers. They started buying different size of packs. They started requiring different needs in terms of different styles. I mean, people learned how to cook during COVID, and they started having a beer potentially when they were cooking as well. So we had to adapt our business. Simple things like the type of packaging. Do we need kegs? Not really. Do we need a lot of cans and a lot of bottles? Yes. And so we had to really shift our supply chain as quickly as possible, move cans in from the US, move other products around just to make sure that we were able to fulfill all of our orders. That brought a lot of business instability, right? We didn't know how long the COVID crisis was going to be, how long our bars and restaurants and cafes were going to be shut. But then we really had to say, okay, now we got the business continuity done. We figured out the finances. We figured out the supply chain. Now let's make sure, you know, that we're also taking care of the society, the culture, the community around us. So we also put in place a lot of efforts for a lot of initiatives so that people that wanted to support their local bars and restaurants, that they were able to to do so, right? So that they were able to pre-buy drinks. We started donations. We built hospitals in Brazil to help deal with COVID patients, and we helped secure oxygen throughout different locations. We made bread out of expired beer. So that's one element. And of course, above all, it was all about taking care of our people. So obviously, you know, some industries were able to work 100% virtually. Well, not us, because we had our breweries that were still operating and running. So we really made sure that we communicated, we adapted our policies to make sure that everyone felt comfortable, and we were there as part of the journey to make sure that we were ultimately leading in the right direction from a people point of view. So that's it. We're not fully
Fantastic.
recovered yet. And hopefully in the next couple of years, we're able to get back to the same level of hotel, bar, restaurant, and cafe consumption as in the past, and count on all the students to help us do that as well.
That'd be excellent. Now we have another couple of questions that are related to what you're currently working on. So I'll take the first one, which is on corporate social responsibility. What are you currently working on in the areas where you are present?
Yeah, I mean, personally for me, so huge element that it's really exciting is kind of ESG, so environmental, societal, and also the governance of a company has become a really important part of all touch points with investor and the investor community, because they want to make sure that they are trading with companies that are doing well for society. But we already had a head start, right? I mean, we were already working on a lot of sustainability, a lot of diversity, a lot of different measures. But then we thought in the finance team, because I'm from finance, what can we do? And we had an opportunity when we were raising some additional commercial paper, so debt essentially, to maybe make a big splash in the world of ESG green-backed loans. What does that mean? It basically means that we're making a commitment to the market to really drive all of these sustainability initiatives all the way through and complete them. And if we don't, we'll pay more interest on the loan that we have taken bank. And there's been a lot of companies that have done this, but we did it in a big way. In February of this year, we announced a $10.1 billion revolving credit facility where we are linking our loan interest to how we're doing on our green initiatives. And it's not just that we can do one and get a discount. No. If we don't do what we're saying, we get a penalty. And if we do what we're doing, then we potentially get a benefit as well. So we're really putting our money where our mouth is. And that is the single largest green-backed credit facility that has been ever issued. And I'm happy to say that it was with AB InBev and led by our group CFO, Tenenbaum, at the New York office.
Well done, Alex. Now, another question about what you're currently working on in terms of the newest projects and products that is not necessarily CSR related. Do you want to add a bit more about other products and projects?
Yeah, I just want to mention that anybody that's interested in, the fast mover consumer goods industry, we really see all categories of what we call premiumization. And so a lot of the company is focused about, well, if consumers are desiring more premium products, how do we design those products? How do we really make sure that from the idea generation all the way to being launched in the market, that we really fulfill the consumer needs? So I would definitely say that premiumization is an element from a core, let's say, commercial and consumer demand is definitely coming in, not only in beer, but in other sectors. So for us in Europe, we have products that have been launched like Beck's Unfiltered in Germany, where you now have an unfiltered, actually it was the original recipe of Beck's was unfiltered, which is a German beer. And you're able to now have that in the supermarket or in the trade. And it's a very interesting product, definitely new and a little bit more premium. That's on one side, I would say. And then the other thing that everyone is talking about right now is all about the commodity prices and what's going on in terms of the price of aluminum, the price of gas at the pump, inflation. You guys must be seeing the news and ultimately what's going on there. And I can say that's a big focus, right? It's a big focus to plan to make sure that we have, let's say, the right practices, that we're trying to look at what is actually happening, getting some price certainty as well. And that's dedicating a lot of my time right now over the last 2-3 months and before even about how we're going to make sure that our products are still competitive in the marketplace going into 2022 and beyond.
Thank you, Alex. Another question from the audience from Kushi. How did ABI adapt to the digitization of the supply chain with regards to the COVID crisis?
Amazing question. So, basic things like we never thought we would be able to move all of our contract process fully online. Well, instantly that happened because there was no formal signatures that were happening anymore in person. So we really had an acceleration, let's say, in terms of ways of working within our own company. But even more exciting than that is that because consumers themselves became trained on e-retail, ordering online, getting their groceries delivered at home, we also saw that our traditional customers, the ones that are a little bit more hesitant to adopt tools that we had built over the past couple of years, suddenly all wanted to jump on. And so we launched last year a product that we call Bees. And Bees is basically a platform that allows you to order beer for your shop to sell to another consumer directly from a website and an application. And previously, you had to wait for a sales rep to come around and say, well, what do you want to order this week? Well, now it's fully done online. It has been an amazing success, an acceleration that was really due to COVID. And not only were we able to launch in one market in 1 year, we launched in 8 markets. We were able to scale the solution so quickly because the market was open to it as well. So now we find ourselves as a company now having a full new business model. We are now a marketplace. We now have the possibility to deliver chips and soda drinks and also beer to all of these different places and establishments, all built on the framework of this Bees platform. And Bees, guys, is bigger than Amazon in most of the markets in which we operate, which is incredible to think that a platform that didn't exist only 18 months ago is already now larger than most of these large tech companies that you might have heard of elsewhere.
Very impressed, Alex, also, and you can tell how you've been in different areas of the organization too, how you're able to respond so knowledgeably about topics ranging from D&I to finance to supply chain. So I appreciate that. Now, a question regarding sustainability. Budweiser has always been my personal beer brand back in Nigeria and here in Norway as well. I would like to ask, how is AB InBev handling sustainability across value chains in Africa?
Yeah, and I think really here, great question. It's really about working with the community and making sure that the full value chain, we're talking from the consumer up to the retailer, up to potentially a payment processor or somebody else in between. And then from where we source our materials, so the farmers, the processors, and ultimately the people that are transporting the product as well, are all driving in the same direction, either literally or figuratively, towards the sustainability practices that we have. So what you see from ABI is really a push towards more and more carbon neutrality, which means that we need to work not only in what's in our scope, what we call scope 1, but also in terms of if we buy aluminum cans from somebody in Nigeria, is their electricity usage efficient? And that would be more scope 2 or scope 3 emissions. And so we're really making sure that we understand what is the environmental footprint throughout the entire organization, and then working supplier by supplier to make sure that we actually move that as quickly as possible. It's about putting the right incentives in place, but also giving the right education, the right information, the right benchmarking. And because we have global operations, and in some locations we opt aluminum can facilities ourselves, like in the US and in Brazil, we are able to share some of the best practices with some of our preferred suppliers as well.
Excellent. Now, continuing along the same topic of sustainability, a question from Jessica. Thanks for sharing about your sustainability bond journey. How embedded is sustainability within the culture of the company? Do you have engagement sustainability campaigns internally?
Well, I think that the best way to say this is that we put our money where our mouth is, and our marketing campaigns, where we spend, billions of dollars per year, are all now having also a sustainability angle to it as well. For example, Budweiser is actively placing renewable energy, whether it's wind, hydro, or whatever it might be, into the middle of all of our campaigns. So if you actually watch the last campaign on Budweiser, you actually have a dog going through a field with windmills in the back, and then we can make a commitment that all Budweiser globally will be made with renewable energy. I think in Europe we're already there. In the US we're already there. There's a couple markets that we still need to complete. But by putting the requirement that every Budweiser that's consumed globally is powered by renewable energy, that's an amazing commitment to make, and really putting our money where our mouth is. For Corona, it's all about reducing ocean waste and ensuring that we're using as much recycled content as possible. So Corona is a super, let's say, environmentally focused brand. When I was running Spain, we had our Save the Beach campaign, right? So we made sure that we were cleaning, making sure that we were turning the community into a better place than where we picked up. But what you'll see is that every brand has a specific element. One more. In Stella Artois, the other global brand, we partner up with Matt Damon's organization called water.org, and we actually provide drinking water to people that would normally have to walk 6 hours to go get water from a well, and then six hours back. We're actually building a well in their village as well. So that is a way that we make all of our campaigns, all of our external projections reinforce the elements of sustainability and environmental responsibility. And internally, guys, we have very, very high benchmarks and levels to every footprint that we have, whether it's our distribution fleet trucks or the way that we capture CO2 that's generated through the normal fermentation process or brewing process, that we reuse it and we can make sure that there's nothing that's unused. Those are all really deeply ingrained in our cost efficiency and efficiency mindset in the company.
All right. Now you've touched slightly upon marketing of Budweiser, and now I want to ask you a question in that regards. Bud used to be a fun, irreverent brand with a mother brand built on affiliation. I see communication veering a bit. Any reasons? You want to take a stab at that one?
Well, I'm not in marketing, but I do have a lot of thoughts about it as well. Listen, I just want to be very clear to everyone that Budweiser has been an amazing success story. Actually, did you guys know that there is more Budweiser now consumed outside of the US than there is actually inside the US? Because the brand, which is the fundamental icon, is exportable and is consumable in so many different markets, and it comes with certain tangible benefits. It's very light, refreshing, a very crisp nature. It's not a beer that's made for a craft beer snob, but it's more a beer for everyone to be able to enjoy. And I think that the positioning of the brand, while it might seem like it's evolved, actually is still based on those irreverent values of kingdom, of being empowered, and really being, let's say, at the height of your creative family and energy, which is why you see Budweiser sponsoring not only the FIFA World Cup, which is a moment, but also nightclubs, and I would say also female creatives and people that are a little bit more trying to get their voice heard. I also think that one thing you need to understand in FMCG in general is that the power of your brand is in consistency. Consistency, that when you pick it up in one market, it tastes the same. Of course, that's a foundational basic, but also that the positioning in terms of price, in terms of kind of the portfolio, in terms of also the key brand guidelines, that it's as consistent as possible. And I think that means that sometimes brands need to evolve. If they're going to be a global brand, you need to maybe execute in a slightly different way. But the most important thing is that the fundamental, initial nature of the brand doesn't change. The product remains a great qualitative product that people are willing to pay a premium for as well.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing your opinion on that. We have fantastic engagement from the audience. I want to bring it back now to the diversity and inclusion D&I discussion. And I want to know if there's ever been a time that you felt excluded.
I would love to say that everything is perfect, and the answer there is no. Listen, I think, and this is applicable for all of the students and all the people that are participating as well. When you're new, when you're being accelerated through your career, like I've had the opportunity to do so, you're going to feel a little bit excluded sometimes, whether it's because of age or experience, or people that are just like, who's this new kid on the block? And sometimes it's not even from inside of the company. Sometimes it's outside of the company. I had a negotiation a couple of months back where this was directly called out. Oh, here's the guy trying to prove that he can make a difference in front of his bosses and da. And that really made me feel a little bit uncomfortable. And I almost wanted to make a direct comment on it in the session itself. But yeah, I would say that the belief that you're always going to be in a perfect harmonious state is not the case, whether it's inside walls or outside. The more important thing is that you have a framework to understand when something is okay or not okay, that you have the possibility of escalating it within your local management, that you educate people to make sure that they feel comfortable and that they know the company is going to be there as well. And so one thing that we did recently is we trained all of our sales guys and ladies and everyone in our sales organization into how can potentially gender be used positively or negatively in a sales negotiation. what is appropriate, what is not appropriate. We brought in the leading negotiation experts that really help to equip our teams on what they can and cannot do, and also what they should be on the lookout for as well. A great training that we're rolling out now to even more countries and even more languages as well.
Excellent. And more efforts to expand D&I internationally at ABI? Anything else going on?
Well, I mean, the D&I council that I'm on is actually a subset of a global, D&I agenda and D&I council that we have. We are in contact, in terms of sharing best practices, and there's a lot of things that happen mostly in Anglo-Saxon countries that then can be copied and pasted out elsewhere. I must say that our UK operations have really been one of the driving forces within Europe, and we are copying and pasting a lot of things from there. But we're also making sure that we're reaching out to trade bodies, trade organizations, like, for example, the brewers of, the brewery organizations, or even FMCG organizations, to make sure that whatever we do is multiplied. Learning also from the trade. We had last week a great session with the finance sector in Belgium that was telling us how they were making sure that their bank reps in the branch, how they're being trained, how they're communicating about inappropriate diversity and inclusion flags that they get sometimes from their customers. And they're working as a body to educate also consumers, or their customers essentially, what is and is not okay. We can learn a lot from them, and we are.
Fantastic. Now, you've been with the company for 10 years. How has the narrative around D&I evolved since you joined the company?
I would say a lot. So I think that also in respect to how society has also evolved, right? I think what's really important is company evolves with the time. It doesn't just sell the same brands and same products. It doesn't just work in the same way. You need to make sure that you're looking for a company that reinvents itself, that launches bees, that starts working on sustainability 10 years before it becomes really a big enforceable topic. And it's the same thing with D&I. I think about 6-7 years ago, we really looked at our 10 principles, the culture that I was talking about before, the dream people culture, and we saw how meritocratic, how diverse, and how inclusion principles were matching. And therefore, we knew that as a company, we had the foundation and the backbone to work on this, if not, in line with other companies, but even at a faster pace than other companies as well. So I would say that the journey has been step by step. It's not been like one day we woke up saying, oh my goodness, we need to do something about D&I. Quite the opposite. And I think it's really being empowered from within. What we need are real ambassadors, real people that truly want to make a position and help the company evolve. And that's why we're also coming to sessions like these to make sure that people that know that this is an important aspect to them know that they're going to have a welcome reception and be welcomed in open arms, let's say, into ABI to be able to work on these topics as well.
Excellent. We continue getting great engagement from the audience, and I want to go back to some of their questions here from Calypso. Awesome conversation. May you enlighten us in a few carbon offsetting projects ABI has initiated in response to climate change. May you kindly share if a digital currency or e-wallet is a consideration?
So let's answer the carbon one. This is a favorite example of this. So you guys all know that on the packet, when you go into altitude and you're making a pasta, for example, that water boils faster when you're at a higher altitude than it is at ground elevation. And so one of the coolest, carbon offset programs that I've seen has actually been to pressurize our kettles. Because if you can pressurize your kettles, you can actually reduce the temperature of the boiling point, less energy to actually get to that point, and you can actually save on your energy usage. So we've actually patented this. We've actually decided to share it with all other brewers to make sure that we can get the maximum impact from these types of inventions. And for me, it's a great example of rethinking our main process, making beer, boiling the wort to be able to extract the sugars from the malted barley that we've crushed up right before in the mill in the most efficient way possible. To go to the question, which was a secondary question on digital currencies and e-wallets, this is a very interesting space. Now, in some countries like Colombia, we already have platforms that are launched that allow us to take an order ahead of time and have like a fast lane. So that way, all you do is using your e-wallet and building credits throughout other acquisitions and purchases that you make, you can go to the bar and get your beers faster. Like, how cool is that to basically close the loop? The thing is, it needs to be really a lot wider than that, right? Sector, one product. Yeah, you'll get some penetration. You'll be able to get some people to install you, but are you really going to reach the critical mass? So I think now the step is, how can we really work with either building our own industry standard like we're doing with bees, or latching on to other, let's say, more regionally appropriate platforms to make sure that we're the first mover and we're openly enabling the transformation towards e-wallets and having a direct relationship with consumers, or our consumers, I would say. So watch this space. There's a lot more going on here, and NFTs or Bitcoin, also something me and my finance team are looking at about how we can become a bit more evolved, let's say, on different foreign currency going forward.
Very exciting, and it really is, all the different projects that you're working on. And now you just mentioned bees again. Question from the audience: with the digital transformation that ABI has gone through and to the new product bees being launched, are there any other digital transformations going on in the company apart from supply chain?
Oh, everything. I mean, I think every single touch point that we have with consumers and customers is currently being reviewed to see how can we do it better, faster, more efficient, more scalable. And that goes from, for example, when I was in Spain, to sign up a new bar and to have an initial order being processed by them, it used to take us 3 weeks because, the bar owner had to upload a picture of their ID card and their electricity bill to make sure they had credit, blah, 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 blah. So I come in, this is 2018. And I'm like, what are all these like paper documents like everywhere? Like, what is this? And they have to get mailed and they get lost, and it's taking us 3 weeks. Let's just reinvent the entire process. In the end, we took a business card that we printed with a checklist. We left it with the bar owner saying, you need to send us to this WhatsApp number a picture of your driver's license, a picture of your last electricity bill. And then on the other side, we implemented docu-signing signature systems so that way we could do a much faster exchange of information. And within 6 months, we went from taking 3 weeks to open a bar to being able to open it basically in 2 days. And that's more sales, that's more efficiency, that's basically being more able to serve your customers in a better way. Plus the experience is better for everybody. There's not delays and any other problems. So here's just another example. Everywhere you turn, there's going to be an opportunity to reinvent and engage. There's not going to be, red tape or anybody telling you, no, this is the way we've always done it. We don't want to look at a different way. At ABI, I can assure you that if you come with a new idea, work on it, let's find a pilot, let's get it implemented, and then ultimately you're going to see it be extended to different markets. We now have DocuSign in all markets here up for the on-trade hotel, bars, and restaurant contracts.
Good for you, pioneering that, Alex. Another question. Scope 3 to be carbon neutral is one of the hardest things each company is trying to do. Are you also helping your suppliers with funding new innovation to help with this transition?
Absolutely. So we just launched, the lightest aluminum can, but we also take a look at how they're generating their heat sources and helping also give them access to some of our financial trading facilities to allow them to maybe have a little bit more price and supply certainty, to allow them to have a little bit more, let's say, adventurous attitude to try other things and help them on their transition as well. And I would always say on Scope 3, you need to work with governmental agencies, transcontinental, so whether it's the UN and the Sustainable Development Goal and the organization of CFOs, let's say, that is being powered, that my CFO is on, my global CFO Tenenbaum, that's the way we're going to do it. Because as long as more companies work together, then the suppliers can actually help address their Scope 3 emissions going forward.
Fantastic. Now, a question from the audience. I love to hear more about circular economy. How can you maximize the use of RGB and increase the rotation of these bottles? Or how AB InBev is dealing with reusing packaging such as labels, carton?
This is someone that's from in the sector, clearly, because they know what RGB stands for. RGB, by the way, for everyone that might not know, is a returnable glass bottle. What you have in beer in some markets, whether it's because it's industry practice or it's government regulated, is essentially what's the word I'm looking for here? Anyways, a quantity, a float, thank you, a float of bottles that can be shared between different brewers if they're a standard bottle, or at least a process by which both the vendor, the supermarket chains, and the brewers work together to go and collect the products. So it's really important that we understand markets that are not in returnable glass bottle, how they could potentially be brought on a journey to become a returnable glass bottle market. And you might say, oh, this will never happen or whatever, but kegs are returnable. So we already have a reverse logistics process in AB InBev. We just need to extend it to another channel in a different packaging format. So it must be possible. And there are a lot of projects, whether it's in Scotland, we also hear it in the UK, of some governments that are helping to move through legislation going towards returnable glass bottles. That would be one way to make sure that we show our customers and our public policy experts kind of the benefits of working in a returnable glass bottle market. How do we improve other elements, like on our labels and cartons and all the other elements? I'm not an expert on this, but I can be assured that we're working to increase the recycled content as much as possible, if not at 100%, as we were saying in our dream, to right now maybe being at 95, 98, 99% recycled content, to make sure that we as least amount of virgin plastics and virgin materials into the marketplace, to make sure that we're not at least contributing to an additional burden in terms of waste going on in the world. So that would be how I would answer that question. And how do we improve it? I mean, there are some benefits there that we need to make sure that consumers understand about returnable glass bottles in terms of auto replenishment. We have an e-commerce platform called Savoir Bière Hopped or Beer Hawk in the UK, where we're now convincing consumers that, how you have that Nespresso machine at home that you buy the little capsules for and you put it in. Well, actually, we have a beer dispenser machine called the Perfect Draft. And we're now telling people, well, rather than going and buying cans and bottles that are one way in the UK, why don't you buy a keg machine that allows you to serve bar quality draft beer in your home, fresh, right there, available for days. And then let's make sure that we create a returnable loop, because it's fully returnable packaging, this Perfect Draft keg. And we're seeing a great success in Europe so far, with plans to expand to other markets as well.
Seriously impressed, Alex, by your ability to articulately respond to all of these questions. It just shows how involved finance is with every department and function in the organization. I want to ask you, and I'll ask you this question, and I always say there's nothing that should keep us up at night work related, but going into 2022, so to say, what is it that would keep you up at night?
I would say, and this is probably applicable to every CFO in every company right now, it's where is the global economy going as we restart out of COVID? Is it all about, is it going to be here for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? Is it permanent? And what do I, as a leader in the company, need to do to make sure that we are going to be able to grow for now and in the future as well? How do we make sure that we keep the right balance between short, mid, and long-term initiatives so that we actually empower our company to grow and we don't get completely derailed by malted barley becoming much more expensive because the cropped yield of this year in Ukraine was low, which is, by the way, also the case. But that's, I think, what's keeping most people in the sector interested to what's going on in the news and really able to respond to the commodity crisis as much as possible. That's it, Amber.
Fantastic. Very good. And now a few tips and tricks for the students listening in that might be heading into their first role. What do you wish someone had told you at the start of your career, for example?
So I think I'll give 3 recommendations. The first is stay incredibly close to your customers and your consumers. It's an office-based role, but you work for a product company like mine. Go to the supermarkets, ask the random person in the supermarket aisle, like, why did you pick up that product? Instead of, why did you pick up that product? Stay as close as possible and understand what are the problems for your company and what are the trends in your company. Number 2, process map. Make sure that you understand how things happen. What is step 1? What is step 1,000? What systems, people, processes, offices? Make sure that you become an expert, because when something goes wrong, you need to be able to be there to recommend how to fix it. And if you know all the consequences as well, and you'll be infinitely more empowered within the organization as well. And the third, stay curious. Always ask why. No matter how many years you've been in the company, always think about doing things in a slightly better way. Never be satisfied with your results. It's one of our 10 principles. Copy our 10 principles if you want to live by them. It might help you as well in whatever company you end up joining, hopefully ABI. But I would say those would be my into the sector.
What an amazing conversation, Alex. I thank you so much for being with us and for that solid career advice for those getting started on their career journey, and for those that have well been into their career journey and maybe looking for a change. Really appreciate it. I want to remind everyone that we have the recruiters for AB InBev standing by in the virtual stand. They're one of our sponsors, and they've come to us with some great prizes for the 15-second challenge that we have happening on Instagram. So if you're not yet following our Instagram account at Get Hired, head on over there, connect, follow us, and check out the 15-second challenge. And we will be watching a brief video right now, once again from AB InBev. And then as soon as we watch this video, we will be announcing the winners from yesterday's giveaway on at Get Hired. So let's check out that final video before we say goodbye to Alex.
It started with a challenge to elevate our voice, to stand out from the crowd, to communicate what we stand for, what makes us unique. We reminded ourselves of who we are. We are AB InBev. Dreaming big is in our DNA. Brewing the world's most loved beers, building iconic brands, and creating meaningful experiences is what inspires us. Our people are curious, bold, and resilient. We're ambitious. We see challenges as opportunities. Push boundaries and thrive under pressure. We are owners building a company to last. Empowered to lead real change, deliver results, and grow at the pace of our talent. We work hard, and we win together. This is what Challenge Accepted means to us, and we're proud to bring it to life across our markets globally. AB InBev. Challenge Accepted.
And we can see you are such a proud ambassador of AB InBev yourself, Alex. So I want to thank you once again and the fantastic team. Medina,
I got goosebumps from that movie.
Oof. I know, right? You can tell your energy, it shines through. So head on over there. There's been many more questions that we have not been able to touch upon, but I strongly encourage all of you out there to connect with the fantastic ABI team there in the virtual stand today, tomorrow. We have our second CV clinic happening today of the day, 4 to 5 p.m. I will be co-hosting with Tuna Dagley from Koch University, 4 to 5 CEST. So come on over for a live express review of your CV to wow the recruiters like the ABI team. Thank you once again, Alex. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for the opportunity, and best of luck in your selection processes. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.